Keith Hernandez is over 70 now, and his story remains one of baseball's most compelling tales of talent, struggle, and redemption. Most fans remember him as the mustached broadcaster calling Mets games, but his path to that booth was anything but simple. This is the story of a man who revolutionized first base, won championships, faced personal demons, and ultimately found a way to transform his life completely. Born in San Francisco in 1953, Keith grew up in a household where baseball wasn't just a game, it was everything. His father, John, had been a baseball prospect whose own dreams were cut short by circumstance. That unfulfilled ambition got channeled directly into Keith and his brother Gary. John created an intense training program that started in their garage, where Keith would swing at a sock filled with a tennis ball hanging from a rope for hours. He filmed Keith's at-bats with a home movie camera and made him study the footage. He even gave 8-year-old Keith written tests about game situations. This demanding upbringing created something special in Keith, but it came with emotional costs. His brother Gary noticed that Keith seemed to perform better under pressure, not worse. That ability to thrive when things got tough would define his entire career. But the intense training also created a complicated relationship with his father that Keith described as a love-hate thing. While he relied on his dad's knowledge to fix his swing during slumps, he also felt a constant need to prove his independence. The psychological conditioning from this childhood would prove crucial throughout Keith's career. There were times when his father's criticisms left him in tears, but it also built extraordinary resilience. Keith learned to excel amid chaos, a skill that would be tested repeatedly during his professional life. Keith's professional journey started quietly. The Cardinals drafted him in the 42nd round in 1971. He was the 783rd player selected, hardly a can't-miss prospect. His minor league numbers were ordinary. He hit around 250 for most of those years, but something clicked when he reached the Cardinals' AAA team in Tulsa. His average jumped to 351, and suddenly the major leagues were calling. The breakthrough came in 1979, a season that announced Keith as one of baseball's elite players. He led the National League in batting average at 344, runs scored with 116, and doubles with 48. That season earned him a share of the Most Valuable Player award with Willie Stargell, the first and only time two players have ever tied for the honor. But Keith's real revolution was happening at first base, where he was completely redefining what the position could be. Before him, first base was essentially where teams parked their big power hitters who couldn't field anywhere else. Keith changed all that with innovations that seem obvious now but were revolutionary then. His defensive skills turned first base into what experts called a defensive weapon. He could charge bunts with the speed of an infielder, often catching runners off guard. He had an incredibly strong throwing arm that allowed the Mets to redesign their infield positioning. Keith developed a pickoff move that was so effective, it kept base runners honest and changed how teams approached stealing second base. From 1978 to 1988, he won 11 straight Gold Glove awards, still a record for National League first basemen. Keith didn't just play first base, he reimagined what the position could be and influenced an entire generation of future first basemen. His offensive numbers during his Cardinals years were consistently excellent. He batted over 307 times and finished with a career batting average of 296. His on-base percentage of 384 demonstrated his value as a complete hitter who understood getting on base. While Keith was establishing himself as one of the game's best players, his personal life was becoming complicated. Like many players in the early 1980s, he began using cocaine during a period when drug use was widespread throughout baseball. For Keith, what started as recreational use during a difficult period following his separation from his wife gradually became more problematic. The culture of baseball in the early 1980s was very different from today. There was less awareness about addiction and fewer support systems for players struggling with substance abuse. Before we dive deeper into how Keith overcame these challenges, make sure to subscribe and let me know in the comments what you think was the most impressive part of Keith's defensive game. Was it those 11 consecutive Gold Gloves, or the way he completely changed how first base was played? Keith's troubles came to a head through his deteriorating relationship with Cardinals manager Whitey Herzog. Herzog was old school. His two rules for players were simple. Be on time and hustle. He felt Keith was coasting on his talent, doing crossword puzzles in the clubhouse, and not giving maximum effort. But the real issue was Herzog's growing awareness of Keith's off-field problems. The breaking point came in 1983. On June 15th, the Cardinals traded Keith to the New York Mets for two pitchers, Neil Allen and Rick Ownbay. Cardinals fans booed when the trade was announced at Busch Stadium. Herzog later admitted he viewed Keith as a cancer on the team because of his drug use. The trade was meant to bury Keith on a last-place team that had lost 94 games or more every season from 1977 to 1982. Instead, something amazing happened. The change of scenery was exactly what Keith needed. Despite being initially unsettled by the move, he hit 306 for the Mets over the rest of 1983 and won his 6th straight Gold Glove. More importantly, leaving Saint. Lewis removed him from the environment that had enabled his drug use. The Mets were building something special with young players like Darryl Strawberry, Dwight Gooden, and Ron Darling. They needed veteran leadership, and Keith became that leader almost immediately. Keith was named the Mets' first ever on-field captain. His veteran presence and high standards transformed a team of talented individuals into a championship unit. The culmination came in 1986 when the Mets won 100 games and defeated the Boston Red Sox in a thrilling 7-game World Series. Keith hit 310 during the regular season and provided the steady leadership the team needed during their most intense moments. But Keith's past caught up with him during the 1985 Pittsburgh drug trials. As part of a federal investigation into drug trafficking in baseball, Keith was granted immunity to testify about what he knew. Under oath, he admitted to using cocaine for 3 years starting in 1980. He said he had developed an insatiable desire for more and had even played games while under the influence. Keith also made a statement that created headlines across the country. He estimated that maybe 40% of major league players were using cocaine in the early 1980s. He later said he might have been grossly wrong about that number, but the damage was done. Baseball was facing a crisis, and Keith had become one of the most prominent faces associated with it. Commissioner Peter Ueberroth suspended 11 players in February 1986, including Keith. But Keith's suspension was conditional. He could continue playing if he agreed to drug testing for the rest of his career and contributed 10% of his salary to anti-drug programs. Keith accepted those terms and never failed a drug test again. He had truly left his drug use behind. The scandal probably cost Keith a spot in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Despite his incredible achievements, the MVP award, 2 World Series championships, those 11 Gold Gloves, he never received more than 10.8% of the vote from baseball writers. He fell off the ballot in 2004. Modern statistics show Keith's career was actually Hall of Fame worthy, with a career WAR of 60.3 that compares favorably to several inducted players. But the drug scandal overshadowed his on-field greatness. Keith finished his playing career with the Cleveland Indians in 1990, but retirement opened up a completely new chapter. In 1998, he joined the Mets broadcast team as a color commentator. Since 2006, he's been part of a beloved trio with Ron Darling and Gary Cohen on SNY. Keith's broadcasting style is unique and instantly recognizable. He's known for his wry humor, honest analysis, and willingness to criticize players when they make mistakes. Mets fans love his curmudgeonly personality and deep knowledge of the game. He's won 2 Emmy Awards for his work and has become as much a part of Mets culture as any active player. Beyond baseball, Keith became a cultural icon through his guest appearance on the popular television series Seinfeld in the 1990s. His famous mustache was even recognized by the American Mustache Institute as the top sports mustache ever. He's used his platform for important causes, particularly supporting the Alzheimer's Association in honor of his mother, who suffered from the disease. Keith's story found its proper ending when the Mets retired his number 17 in 2022, placing it alongside other franchise legends at Citi Field. He was also inducted into the Cardinals Hall of Fame in 2021, showing that both organizations eventually recognized his contributions despite the controversies. Looking back, Keith Hernandez represents something important about second chances and personal growth. He made serious mistakes during his playing career, mistakes that had real consequences for his reputation and Hall of Fame chances. But he owned those mistakes, accepted responsibility, and built a new life that has brought joy to millions of fans for over 25 years. Keith's defensive innovations changed baseball forever, influencing how first base is played even today. His leadership helped bring a championship to New York. His broadcasting work has educated and entertained fans for decades, proving that athletes can successfully transition to new careers with the right attitude and work ethic. His story shows that while our mistakes have consequences, they don't have to define our entire lives. Keith Hernandez proved that with honesty, hard work, and a genuine commitment to change, it's possible to build something meaningful from even the most difficult circumstances. What do you think about Keith's complete journey from his complicated childhood through his playing career to his success as a broadcaster? Let me know in the comments what part of his story resonates most with you, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories about baseball's most fascinating figures and their paths through life.